Hey there, this is Mike Pearl from the Digital Transformation Project team, and in this video I want to go over the event status and approvals section of the event form, as well as a little bit about what you may expect to be asked to do if you are an approver of an event. So in general, the approval piece of the event form is driven by the geographic location, which in this case happens to be the Olympia-Tacoma Metro in Washington State. And the second piece is the financial cost of the event, which at the moment is 0, just so I can show you some demonstration purposes. So depending on those two things, we're going to have different names get populated into the different approval sections, and the higher the dollar amount, the more levels of approval we'll have to go through, because there are specific thresholds set in place by Team Rubicon. So to begin with, we'll talk about some of these fields here in the event status and approval section. So up here in the upper left, this is a checkbox that simply helps us automate part of the approval process. So the way this works is if you are the event lead, or the submitter in other words, then you would put in your internal note to the approvers as to why this particular event should happen. So this is essentially like a kind of behind the scenes, like, hey, I really want to do this because of these reasons, and that's what should go into this box. And then as soon as you hit the submit for approval button and save it, that is going to be emailed to the first approval level so that they can read that note while also being prompted to come look at the event. So this field is different from another field that's close, which is the event description. But the difference is that this is what goes out to the event calendar that the gray shirts, the people that are signing up, would see. And so it's important that this have the reasons why they should be interested, and inside of the status and approval section, these are the reasons why the territory leadership should be interested in doing this event. Over here we also have a couple other fields that are locked down for most people, and so this is part of the automation of the approval process. These things will change dynamically as different things happen. So with this particular event, if it's all green, we're in our sandbox, so this is a fake event, but we can use it as a demonstration. So this is a fake workshop called Surviving a Hurricane. At the moment, there's no waiver required, and there's no finances required. It's currently set to 0, which means that the approver level 1, which is typically a city manager, district coordinator, could be a state admin, they have the ability to approve these without going any higher level, because there's no dollar amount and there's no waiver. So if this were something that did require a waiver and we check the box and save it, then what will happen is the event will kind of think about it. It takes up to like 30 seconds or so, but then whenever you go to the approval section, it'll bring in the next level approver. And again, these names are populated on the master lists for the geographic location, which I'll show you at the end of this video. Okay, so if it requires a waiver, it immediately goes to level 2. And then if we happen to add some money, like let's say we need $1,500 worth of airfare and, I don't know, $20 worth of printing. So let's save this. This will bump up to $1,520. And if we go back and look here, now we've bumped up a couple more thresholds based on that dollar amount. And we've also noticed that we've got Jonas in here in a couple different places. There has to be an approver at each of the different levels in the geographic master lists. And so sometimes we're going to have people that kind of double up. Another thing that's important to note is that anybody that is at a higher level can also not only approve the level that they find themselves at, but also any level below them. So in this case, Jonas, if Rebecca and Richard are not available for some reason, Jonas can actually come in here and hit these buttons on their behalf all the way up to his level. And level 2 can't go up to 3, but 3 can do 2, if that makes sense. We also have a few boxes over here to be able to put notes back to the submitter if they want to. And then if they agree that this is good to go, or they want to submit whether they approve it or not, then they would hit the button here in order to actually submit their record for their row. Okay. Another thing that happens, let me set this back to NA and we'll submit for approval actually. We'll hit save. And what should happen is the overall event should go to pending. And since the system recognized that Rebecca in this case had already marked approved, or in this case someone did it for her, then it immediately goes to the next level and it sends an email to Rick in this case that says, hey, come to this event, check it out, and say whether or not it's approved or not approved, or kind of work with the submitter. Now, something that the approvers can be expected to do is they would want to work with the different reps in the system. And as a reminder, the reps are not necessarily approvers, but they are subject matter experts for their particular section. And so as soon as the submitter hits the submit for approval button, the rep's going to get an email that will prompt them to come look at the event, look at their particular section, and then work with the submitter to make sure that it looks right. So is it a sane plan? Are we following all best practices? Things of that nature. So as an approver, it's kind of in your best interest to allow these people, if there is a name here, since this is optional, to allow them to work with the submitters, and you would go and collaborate with the submitter and the reps in order to get everything looking correct before you actually approve it. On the flip side, if there is no rep, or if you look and you decide that it's already an okay plan, then you can also do what the rep would normally do and say that you support the plan on behalf of them. And what happens is, as soon as we hit submit, then it's going to show your name here instead of their name. So the approvers do have the authority to basically approve these particular sections, but best practice would dictate that you'd probably want for your subject matter experts to be the ones that are in there doing that. However, it's different for each territory. So if we were to bump this up to a lot of money, I want to show one last thing here. So now we've got the highest dollar amount, and we see we brought in the highest level. So the COO, in this case Art, is the only person that can approve anything over 25,000. And so you can see how this process, like as these come through, like each person would kind of come in, check everything out, they'd mark it approved or not, or Art in this case could come through and just mark everything approved if he really wanted to. And as soon as everything is approved all the way throughout the entire block, then we should see the overall approval for the event change as well. So it's the system's smart enough to understand how many people and whether the last one's done it or not. At any point along the way, if anybody here picked that they did not approve, then what it does is it will uncheck this box, and it will kick an email back to the submitter as well as CC the level below them to say that this was not approved, and here's the reason why, because hopefully they're using these text fields to explain why they're not approving. And then that way it will kind of undo the process up to that point, and then the next person would go back to pending. So if it gets kicked down a level, that person would have to go basically help the submitter fix the problem and then go through the approval process again. Last but not least, I want to remind everybody that the overall event status is where you have a publish option, and this publish option is what controls whether or not the event shows up on the event calendar. And so each territory can decide how they want to handle that, but I just want to note that the publish process is separate from the approval process. They don't necessarily have to be approved before you publish. However, the territories can choose to do that if they want, but for the regions that want to have some awareness of the events that are coming up, even before all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed, then you can choose to publish as soon as you know that you're actually going to do the event. It's just a matter of getting all the details right. Then you could have it in a non-approved status but still go publish it. So anyway, thank you for your patience on this long video. The approval process is pretty highly automated. We've tested as much as we can. There's probably going to be some weird situations that the system finds itself in. And it may send a weird email here and there. So if you get an approval email and you don't quite understand why, feel free to hit me up and we can work through the process. There's some auditing and things in the back end that we can check to see kind of what happened, and that way we can help improve the process over time. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you in the next video.